All right, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Gunner Technology Livestream, a weekly tech talk for non-techies and techies alike. I'm your host, Harry Americans. With me is CEO of Gunner Technology, Cody Swan. What's up, Cody?
I think I got this natural lighting down.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
I'm pretty sure I got it down. I did some research.
Studied some old film.
Yep. Some Charlie Chaplin stuff.
Yeah,
got
it's
that down.
vast
So
improvement.
my cane and my handlebar mustache, or no, Charlie Chaplin didn't have a handlebar mustache. What mustache was that?
Charlie Chaplin had like the Adolf
A
Hitler
Chaplin.
mustache.
He had the Charlie Chaplin mustache. That's right.
Is that actually called a Chaplin?
Yes,
mustache?
it is.
Okay.
Because the place I go to get my beard and hair done, it's called Max's. Shout out to Max's. And the bib they give you, I guess it's bib, the thing they put over you, has all the different mustaches and the name of them. And I saw the Chaplin. So,
okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, let's dive right into it. We have a winner for our weekly Country Shore giveaway. Country Shore is a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. You can visit them at countryshoreoutfitters.com. The winner this week is actually a West Coast guy, Robert F. from Los Angeles, California. Robert, or maybe Bob or Bobby, you've got a Country Shore hat coming your way along with copies of our ebooks. So anyone who didn't win this week, go ahead and jump on our Facebook page and sign up for the Country Shore giveaway. And while you're there, go ahead and answer our question of the week, which this past week, remind them what that was, Cody.
How long do you think it takes to build a mobile app? And the answers were all over the place, just as kind of I expected. So, by the way, Robert in Los Angeles is definitely Bobby. I guarantee it.
It's got to be Bobby.
Oh yeah, he's he's on set right now, as a matter of fact. But yeah, so how long do you think it takes to build a mobile app? And the question kind of was a leading one in the fact that my point is that it's like asking how long it would take to build a building.
Yeah.
But even more open-ending than asking how long would it take to build a building.
Yeah, because at least buildings have a sort of a finished state.
Right, exactly.
Apps can sort of just never be done.
Right, that's right. I mean, like the real question is to kind of say, have an idea and say something like, what is a loose ballpark and how long it would take to implement this very loose idea in the most basic sense.
So how did we do? What did we end up getting?
It was all over the place. I got 10 days,
4 minutes,
10, yeah. 10 months, a year. I mean, and they're all valid responses. We just built an app for someone in 10 days. So that's
it really
correct.
Depends on the scope of the idea.
And we've been working on apps for longer than a year. So
yeah. Fan Profiles, the ESPN social network, or the social network we built for ESPN back in the day, took about 2 years, if I remember correctly, sort of from finding Rails firms that first fall that I was there. And I think we launched it the fall 2 years later.
Yes. So it's quite crazy. And launching is different than building. I mean, because launch, there's never only ever one launch. There's never one launch, ever. And I think that's kind of the misconception here is that, I mean, almost no app is you're done. You build it, you're done kind of thing. It's always a process.
Except for Craigslist. I think Craigslist has been done for like 10 years.
They have. I don't think Craigslist has added a feature in 10 years.
I think they're done. Like, I think it's just done. But to your point, apps generally have multiple launches and sort of are constantly evolving and growing, which kind of leads into the topic for this week. But before we get there, what's the question for next week?
The question for next week is, how old were you when you got your first smartphone?
Oh wow, that's gonna date me horribly. So
I had the first iPhone, which I guess was 2006.
6?
Yeah, 2006. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm looking that up. June 2007.
June 2007?
So you had 2007? You had your first smartphone?
Yes. But I don't think I got it in June because I wasn't like one of those guys who was first in line. I think I waited a couple months. I swear it was the year that Florida won the national title, which I guess technically was 2007.
2007, yeah. The national title game was.
It was 2006 season, 2007 game. So
you're talking about that game? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think when I moved to LA to work for ESPN is when I got my first smartphone. So that would have been actually also 2007, I guess.
I still had it up until recently. I should have kept it.
Oh, you should have kept it. You could have sold that for a mint.
Yeah.
Oh well.
I had it up till recently, and then I just threw it out. I was doing some stuff, threw it out.
You didn't even keep it as like a paperweight, as like a really cool paperweight.
No, I sure didn't. Just threw it out. I try to be a minimalist. I make an effort.
Try. I think we all try, and then we look around our rooms and we're like, I am failing so hard at being a minimalist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm curious to see when people got their first smartphones, because I think a lot of our younger viewers probably didn't get it until
and I guess I didn't answer the question.
2010s.
I guess I didn't answer the question, because the question is, how old were you?
Oh, okay. How old were you? It's not what year did you get it.
Right. So in 2007, I would have been, let's see, that was 11 years ago. So I was 26, 25, 26.
No. Wait, no. 2007, you would have been 24, 25, right? Were you born in 82?
Yeah, 82.
I was 24 in 2007.
Yeah, so 25, 20, no, let's see. I'm 36 now. So, yeah. 20, welcome to 25, 26. 25, 26.
Okay. Yeah. So, which is crazy because now kids get it when they're 8.
Oh, so, yeah. Oh, now smartphones and smart devices are like babysitters for kids.
It's nuts. It's wild to think that we didn't have smartphones for the first 25 years of our lives.
It's dumb to think we didn't have smartphones.
Yeah.
we had dumb phones.
We had dumb phones. We had the dumbest phones. Although we did get excited about our dumb phones. I remember one of my friends, like junior year of high school, got a camera phone, like a really sick camera phone. And that was like, oh my gosh, that was the talk of the schoolyard.
I had one of those Nokia ones that you could trick out, where you could have like the antenna like light up with an LED light, and had like the clear case so you could see like the internals of the phone.
The real cool stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, they just don't make them like that anymore.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be as excited as the first phone I got that had Snake on it, because I think that was just days of my life was devoted to maxing out Snake. That's a great game. Those were great phones. Those old Nokia phones. Those things were tough too.
Oh anyways, gosh, yeah.
Like a little walk down nostalgia lane for our old dumb phones. But getting back to the point at hand, your discussion of how long it takes to launch an app and how there are multiple launches kind of leads into our topic today, which is basically how do entrepreneurs fund their apps or fund the development of their apps. And the tough thing there is that, one, you don't really know when your app is done. And two, you always want to add new features and sort of keep up with the Joneses. So there's always going to be additional feature development, and you need to sort of budget your time to get a minimal viable product out there, but also have some in reserve so that you can update the app as needed. So I guess that's sort of an intro to our discussion here of how entrepreneurs pay for their apps, especially entrepreneurs who come to us with their ideas and how they sort of fund the development of their apps with us.
Yeah, and usually, especially because we're taking this from the idea stage, that it's usually with personal finances. That's usually how it starts. And I would say that usually is in the 10 grand range is usually what someone's like total allocation, not necessarily what the app will cost necessarily, but that's kind of what people bring to the table is like, I have like 10 grand to launch my idea. And that, again, that in their mind will get everything done from development to marketing to whatever else they aren't thinking of. So that's generally what people start with when they're coming to us.
And then I guess in terms of, we sort of talked pricing structure last time, and obviously we offer 30 days free for new clients. But how do you sort of structure the payments as far as developing out features for a new application?
Yeah, so that's the tough part, right? So the reason that we do that 30 days for free is because then at the end of that 30 days, you have something. It's not just this nebulous idea. It's something tangible. And theoretically, at the end of 30 days, you'll have a working product. You may not want to go to market with it, but you'll be able to look at it and say, this is what it needs to get to market at the end of that 30 days. That's what you should be able to look back and say, it's not there yet, but these are the things that I want to get to, that I want done in 30 days or to get to market. We're able to look at that and say, okay, now we have a good idea of what this idea is. We've built a lot of it. So we have a good idea of what the requests are going to be. Is this list of things that are required to go to market, is this going to be like a 4-year thing, or is this going to be like a 4-month thing? We're able to really give a better estimate of what we're talking about in terms of time and pricing. And at that point, we can also say to them, well, how quickly do you want to go to market? Because you have this list of 100 things that you need before you go to market. We can get through these 100 things in a month, if you have a $100,000 budget, or we can get through these things in a much longer time period if you're able to, and it'll hit your budget a lot softer if you're able to take 6 months instead of 1 month to be able to get through this list. So we're able to then kind of give an estimate to the entrepreneur. Well, here's what it's going to cost to get this list of things that you need done.
And I guess I should say this episode is going to be slightly different from the rest of the Entrepreneur series, because there isn't really a hat for me to wear in this instance, because we're really not talking about budget with the build out of Lingua Franklin, which is sort of the sample product or the sample application that we're building out as part of this 10-part series. So I once you've sort of got through the first couple months of the build out and you sort of have a product that you think is at least semi-marketable, and possibly the budget, which again, like you said, is sort of largely drawn from personal funds, or I guess with the like cash from family, friends, cash that you've saved up over the years. I think the next step is always the toughest step for entrepreneurs that we work with, which is sort of how do you take your application or your idea to the next level, which often involves bringing in outside sources for funding. So how do you sort of, or how do we help entrepreneurs sort of take that next step?
Yeah, so let me back up just 1 second. I'll get there, and I just want to add one step to it. The other thing that we're cutting out in the whole 30 days free thing, that can largely skip the personal finance stage, where an entrepreneur is coming with us and they want to build something, with their personal finance. And you touch on something important, is there's that friends and family round. So basically, as long as the idea isn't too off the charts, like I said, we can get something built in 30 days. Then the entrepreneur, again, that's not a go-to-market product, but that's something the entrepreneur can show to their friends and family and get them excited about the potential of this application. It's generally not something that they can take to a venture capitalist firm or a private equity firm and say, invest in this. It's not there yet, but their friends and family, you can get that little pop to get you to that next round. So that 30 days is another thing that, again, it sounds like it's too good to be true, but it really helps us too, because we want the entrepreneur to get that budget, because we're not making a company based off of those first iterations of the application. We're building a company based on the apps that get to funding, the big rounds of funding, because that's when we start getting larger budgets that we can then use. So anything we can do to not eat into the money up front, that's going to be beneficial to both us and the entrepreneur to get them to those big rounds of funding. Let me just ask before we get to the later stages of funding too. What's your experience been with folks taking out loans to fund the initial stages of their application build out? What's been my experience in terms of what the entrepreneurs have been doing? Yeah. I mean, so again, after generally speaking, that personal round, what we're talking about, where it's their personal finances, that's going to be either, again, like you said, money they've saved up, or money that they're taking from like a bank, like a $10,000 loan or a $20,000 loan, straight up, just like you would borrow cash to buy an automobile, for example. That's generally what I've seen in terms of that first round of financing. It's either, I have this in my savings account, or, I borrowed money from a bank to start this business kind of thing.
And then I guess we can sort of get into the later stages now, which is sort of where the real, it's obviously much tougher, but it's more interesting at the same time. So talk
Well,
about,
and then the
sorry,
other
go
thing,
ahead.
yeah, the other thing I was gonna say is the later stages also depend on what your kind of business is. If you're trying to build the next Facebook, like you have a social play, you're trying to build a social networking application, guarantee you're going to have to get a VC round, probably many VC rounds, because you're not going to make any money for a very, very, very long time, if ever. Yeah, your strategy for making money may be through an acquisition. That may be what you're planning on is Google purchasing you, and that's the only way you're going to make money, because these social networking apps, they don't make money for a very, very long time. If, like, again, most of them don't make any money ever. Facebook wasn't profitable for years. Twitter wasn't profitable for years. Snapchat isn't profitable.
Right,
I mean,
right.
it's crazy. So if you're not profitable, you need that money from somewhere. Now, if you are building like a B2C application where you are, say, building apps for uses in hospitals, you may not need to raise that round at all. All you may need is that letter of intent from that first hospital that will agree to that licensing deal. And basically, if you bring us, if it's an entrepreneur, if you bring us that letter of intent, that's as good as cash, because we know that cash is there. And so we'll foot the cost of development under the guise of that LOI to get you to meet that contract, and then you could pay us. So you may not need to raise that big round at all, and you can just piggy bank off of that first licensing deal, and then license to others and others and others and others. So it really depends on what your business idea is, and are you a B2C, meaning are you business? Are you B2B, meaning are you just trying to sign up other businesses? Or are you B2C, where you're just trying to get a mass audience and somehow try to figure out how to make money off those people? Or again, if you're B2C and you have a small subscription fee, say like 99 cents a month or $2 a month, you still have to get that mass quantity to be able to be profitable. And in order to do that, you got to put a lot into marketing, which that's when you have to start going to the VC well, is when you're looking for marketing and development dollars.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. That's exactly where I was going. Is I think the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make is not putting enough money towards marketing and not realizing how big of an expense that's going to be to sort of reach that critical mass where your application really takes off.
Yeah, and so again, this is another point where, as an entrepreneur, you need to ask yourself, what is your skill set? So let's say, for example, you're an entrepreneur who can dev. Well, maybe you can cut down on dev costs by helping us out and deving some of yourself. If you're a marketing guru and you're really into big into biz dev, maybe you can cut down on that biz dev side of things and really like hit the streets and do a lot of on the ground biz dev and cut some of the costs out there. If neither one of those are your forte, if you're an accountant and you're a numbers guy, then you're going to have to spend equal amounts on both. And that's usually what it comes down to, is an equal amount on both. If we tell you that it's going to take $100,000 to build this application, that means you'd better have another $100,000 ready to market this application.
So it sort of works like the film industry, where your marketing budget is at least equal to your production budget.
Yes, that is a great analogy. Yes, exactly. Because the thing is we talk about this all the time. There are so many things out there competing for people's attention right now. You have to have some way to get it in front of them repeatedly in order for them to test it out. And usually that's through purchasing. And whether you do that by paying an influencer on Instagram to promote it, or you go through traditional advertising channels, it costs money.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because the metrics du jour are really all user metrics. It's active users, it's total number of users, it's registrations in the past 30 days. Everything is about just the quantity of users that you have actually using your product, because what companies are actually worried about is how many eyeballs your app has, not necessarily how useful it is. Although I guess that isn't necessarily the case with services or subscription-based services. But I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, for their ideas, what it's going to come down to at the end of the day is how many people are actually using their app, and that really does just come down to marketing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are some lightning lightnings in a bottle or lightning in a bottles. There are a few of those where they just kind of take off. Like, for example, you know, for whatever reason, Taylor Swift happens to find this cool app and she finds it in her heart to share it with her Twitter followers or Instagram followers or whatever. There's examples of that, but that's like planning on winning the lottery.
Right, exactly.
You don't want to bank on that if we're talking about your business kind of thing.
So let's imagine that I guess like 2, 3, 5-year plan is to grow Lingua Franklin to the point where it's sort of gotten widespread adoption across the country in a number of schools, and I guess that's probably the user base we'd be targeting. Talk about how the actual funding rounds function, whether you're targeting venture capital firms, whether you're targeting angel investors, and sort of what the process is there and how we help our clients with that process.
So it should be really simple, although with like convertible bonds and all these other like preferred stock options, all these like little kind of nuances, it gets a lot more complicated. I won't even try to go into all of that stuff in a 30-minute podcast. There's other people out there that can explain it a lot better than I can. But essentially, what it comes down to is you are giving away part of your company in return for money. And in a lot of cases, in return for say in your company. And so basically, just like a publicly traded company, your company would have stock. And as the founder, as the original founder, you have 100% of the stock. And so that could be, let's say 1,000 shares. It's usually more like 1,000,000 or 100,000 shares, but let's say it's 100, it's like 1,000 shares. So then if you go to your friends and family and you're like, hey, you should invest in my app, they're going to say, great, I'd love to. What is the price per share? And what they're asking is basically how much does it cost? How much is a share of your company worth? So as the entrepreneur, you need to value your stock or your company. And that is where a lot of magic comes in, and especially in the startup community, because how do you value something that doesn't even exist really yet? You don't have any users, you have no revenue. So how do you value a company?
You just binge watch Shark Tank, I think.
You binge watch Shark Tank and come up with something that sounds really good.
Yeah.
And basically, at that point, your company is worth whatever the investors decide it's worth. For example, if you have 1,000 shares and someone buys one share for $1, that means your company is worth $1,000 because you have 1,000 shares and you sold one to someone for $1. They were willing to pay $1 for one share, and you have 1,000 of those. So your company now has a valuation of $1,000. Before then, it was whatever you could possibly BS your way into, which is where the hockey stick growth charts come in, and potentials and markets and all that stuff comes into. Like, you're basically what you're trying to show is what the overall market is. So if you're going after hospitals, you're going to say there are, again, using easy numbers, there's 100 hospitals in the United States. Yes, I know there's a lot more. There's 100 hospitals in the United States, and my licensing deal will cost $1,000 a year, and I'm pretty sure I can capture 10% of the market. So you basically do the math and you say, based on that, my company is worth this. It's total conjecture, and it changes wildly, but that's what you're presenting to the company or the investors, whether it's the friends and family, whether it's the angels, whether it's the VCs or the private equity firms. That's kind of what you're doing. Although usually when you get to the level of private equity or venture capitalists, you do have P&Ls that will show, what your company is actually worth in terms of EBITDA or things like that, which basically show what cash comes in, what cash goes out in your company.
And would you recommend targeting any particular source of funding, whether it's VC, angel, equity firm, or an incubator? I mean, what's sort of what has the best chance of success?
I don't know that any of them. So there are different stages, right? So VCs and private equities are different because private equities generally come in when a company is struggling. Not always, but they see potential in a company, but they see that it is failing because of management issues or some other kind of issues. So they basically take it over, meaning that private equity firms won't deal with you if you're not going to give them 51% of your company. And so they take it over and they infuse it with cash, and they have expertise in turning companies around, so they get your company back on track. They may not even keep you around. They may say, thank you, we'll take it from here. And basically, generally what they do is they don't buy you out. Like, it's not an acquisition, which is, I think, where people get confused. It's not someone like Google who's buying you out of your stock options. This private equity firms will buy into your company at a discount and want to run your company, because what they want to do is they want to increase the value of your company exponentially, and then they want to sell it to someone else, to a big acquisition firm. That's how they make their money. So in that case, private equity is good because it can save your company, but you would prefer to be able to do it yourself, kind of thing. Venture capitalists are basically going back to private equity, they have a much higher success rate. So like their success rate would be like 80%, something like that. I'm making up something, but like 80%, meaning that they're going to make money on investing in a company. And again, what they do is they take over controlling stake, raise the valuation by helping the company, and then they sell it. So that's how they have like an 80% success rate. Venture capitalists, on the other hand, they make their monies from IPOs or acquisitions, but they have a much, much lower rate of success. So, but the difference is they'll be successful in maybe 1%, 10% of their investments, but it's a home run. They'll have put in like $1 million on $1 billion exit. Whereas,
they're more high risk, high reward than private equity firms.
That's exactly right. And so the other thing is, depending on the venture capitalist, they may not help you. That's the thing you really need to be cognizant of if you're going to work with a VC, is to make sure they're going to be involved, that they're going to be like on the board, and they're going to like actually provide resources, which again got to your point about an incubator, which I think is the best way to go if you need the help. So if you have a large gap in your staff or your employees, like for example, if your company just does not have anyone who knows HR, and you can find an incubator who's going to invest in your company and provides HR support staff or legal support staff, that's a big way to go, because money is fleeting if you don't know what to do with it. So if you're not a seasoned entrepreneur, you really want money and guidance. So again, whether that's in the form of angels or VCs or friends and family, when you take money, you want people who are going to be actively involved, not people who are going to try to run the company, but people who know where your blind spots are and can help fill those blind spots for you.
Yeah, there's a great incubator in Vegas actually that does a lot of that. They sort of have like just sort of a team of experts.
It's called Craps.
Yeah, exactly. It's called Bet It on Black Incorporated. But they're available to sort of help out on an ongoing basis, and they take a percentage of the company in return for giving you sort of like an actual location. They give you HR resources. They help out with sort of the business plan and the growth plan for the company in exchange for like a small percentage of the company itself. And it's either, I think it's 6 months, it might be 12 months, but you basically just have that 6 or 12 months to sort of leverage all of these resources and grow your company as much as you can. So it is a pretty sweet deal. I guess the difficulty is, I guess the difficulty is finding the right situation. Like you might just want to sort of go it your own, and in that case, sort of the angel route or the VC route would probably be the more optimal solution.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect scenario, you wouldn't need to raise any money. Your app would be a hit. It would take off, and you never need any financial support from anyone. Because when you get financial support, unless, again, it's from the bank, in which case it's debt financing, you're giving part of your company in return for that money. And the more the company you can keep, the better.
Yeah. So I guess in that sense, what recommendations do you have? We actually had a question here, by the way, before I get to that. They said, what resources are available to find sources of funding? That's Karam X.
That's a really good question. So angel investors typically don't like to be known. There is something out there. I'm looking it up right now. There is a resource out there to find angel investors, but generally speaking, they like to stay pretty private. Again, on Google, I just found a list of the 20 most active angel investors on Forbes. This is from 2013. But they don't register anywhere. It's just people who like basically made their money in technology or whatever and like to kind of give back. I mean, they're going to make money. They're not purely altruistic, but they're trying to help out by giving people with like-minded goals money. And so basically, there aren't a lot of good directories out there. You kind of just need to
boots on the ground.
Yeah, network and know someone who knows someone, and they'll be like, I know this guy Paul, and Paul made his money in insurance technology, and he's got a lot of money. You may want to go talk to him about this. I mean, that's kind of how it happens. Now, venture capitalists, there's a lot. It's just Google whatever industry you're looking for and venture capitalists, and you'll find a lot of them. Finding a venture capitalist isn't hard. Getting an audience with them is more difficult. And again, you kind of have to work your way in there and know someone who knows someone who can get you a meeting. And then at that point, you're going to have to present to the venture capitalist. And usually it's not just one, it's a team who's going to evaluate your idea. It's almost like Shark Tank, I assume, because I've only ever caught passing tidbits of Shark Tank, but it's kind of like that when you're in a room and you're presenting, and at the end of the presentation, the venture capitalists say yeah or no, and that's basically it. And friends and family, obviously, you have friends, you have family, you ask them for money. But again, even if they're friends and family, you have to give them something in return for that money.
So I guess any closing thoughts or any final advice for folks looking for funding for their app ideas?
Like I said, stave off going for funding as long as possible. Not only because you want to go it yourself, but the longer you can make it, especially if you can build success, it's a tightrope because you want to go raise money from a position of strength, right? Like if you go to raise money when your company's not doing so well, your valuation is going to be low, so you're not going to get good terms on the money, or you're not going to raise money at all. But you also don't want to raise money if you don't need it. So basically what you want is a situation where your company is doing well, but if I only had $2 million or whatever that number is, I could put it to this and I know it would grow exponentially more. That's kind of where you want to feel out. And each step of the way, like, I'm seeing some traction here. The app, like I've shown the app to a couple people. They freaking love it. If I could just get the app in 100 people's hands, we could get to that next level. Okay, well, what does it take to get the app in 100 people's hands? Well, I need like 10 grand. All right, well, go ask friends and family for give them like a percent or one share for a couple grand and get to that 10 grand.
10% back.
Yeah, but my point is you want the money for something specific. You don't want the money just to have the money because it's not free. People make the mistake to think it's free. It's not free. And so you want a specific purpose for that money, and you want to go seek that money from a position of strength rather than a position of, oh my gosh, my company's going to shut down if I don't get this money.
Well, that's a great point to end on. Make sure to check out the blog post for this episode at gunnertech.com. You can check out our podcast on iTunes. Make sure to check out our ebooks at Amazon, iBooks, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and anywhere else ebooks are sold. Hop on our Facebook page and enter the Country Shore giveaway. Country Shore is a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. And while you're on our Facebook page, go ahead and answer our question of the week, which remind them again, Cody, what the question of the week is this week.
How old were you when you got your first smartphone?
Gosh. That's going to make me feel old. I I feel like the average answer is going to be about 14.
I don't need any help with that. My joints, my joints tell me that I'm old.
Every morning I wake up tells me that I'm old.
Exactly.
So hop on our Facebook page, answer that question of the week, sign up for the Country Road giveaway, and make sure to tune in next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time for the next episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream. I'm Jerry. That's Cody. We'll see you next week.